This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this big news with Trump and his meeting with Kanye and Mar-a-Lago, which is just a lot of things about the story just so unfathomable. But the backlash with that, Kanye actually deleted his posts and videos after that, and he also came for Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire last night as well, which he deleted. That is those tweets, but we're still going to talk about it. Also, gosh, I have this terrible pro-euthanasia ad that aired in, I guess for this clothing company in Canada, because they are doing medical assistance in dying, and they're expanding it, and they've already moved to the commercialize it stage. So that's really disturbing. Also want to talk a little bit about what's going on in China. They're having protests, but also UN posted something about free speech, or how words can wound and words can be weapons, which a lot of people are mocking them and saying, like, stay away from my free speech. But I'm like, they're totally right. But that's why these people are coming for us, because they know how powerful words are and how they can change and they can be damaging, but they're focusing on how they believe it's damaging while they know the true power of words. So that's why they want to censor. So we'll talk about that. And also Mike Lindell's said he's going to run against Ronna McDaniel for GOP. So there's just so much happening. There's so much that happened in the past week. I did take the week off. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, that you're all refreshed and happy and ready to go, like I am. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different videos, articles, etc. You guys know that I am going to be releasing very soon my, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion book. Very excited to be releasing that soon, which, by the way, I'll let you guys know when that goes up for pre-order. My younger sister, Tina, did the art for me with that little baby hand reaching out to Jesus. Reaching out to God, like the very famous painting. So she did such a great job after I, said, hey, this is what I want. And she did it. She made adjustments, and she just did a fabulous job. She's an artist too. You can look her stuff up at Tina's Text Designs. Tina's TextPortraits.com. She does these adorable mini paintings. She can do larger paintings too, but she does these text portraits. Like, she could draw a picture of you, and she would make it out of words. Some people have done like vows. People have done like phrases for, like, a friend of mine. Their dog passed away, so it was the name of the dog. Just all kinds of different things. If you look at her website, she does incredible work. Which, by the way, on Wednesday, if you're in Michigan, at Oakland University, I will have a table there, and I'll have some of my books there. So if you're interested and would like a signed copy, and you're in the area, you can come to the book art fair that they're having, and it's from 9 to 4 at Oakland University. Oakland University is in Auburn Hills, so that's the southeast area of Michigan. So if you're in the area, come and pop by, and I'd love to sign a book for you. Which I have 15, which let me just pop up a picture really quick with all of them. Bam. I did post a little snippet of what they're all kind of about in like a minute. So if you want to go look at that real quick on Facebook, but also you can just hit up my website, ninjadoespublishing.com. If you go to blacktnews.com and the merchandise, there's a banner that will take you straight to that website, so you can just learn more about them. But yeah, I have Most of them in stock. I think there's just one or two that's maybe sold out right now as far as my physical copies, but otherwise you guys can go to Amazon and pick those up, and they're available on paperback, or you guys can get them in Kindle. And working on trying to have some audiobooks for you soon, um, for those books. So just keep an eye out for that. But I love to write, love to write. Most of my books are fiction, but I do have like one nonfiction, and of course my other nonfiction book that will be coming out very soon. If you like what I do at blacktnews.com, consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, costs to do all those things. So I know 'tis the season, and you guys are focused on families, and who's not. But if you would like to support and cover some of that overhead, God bless you. Really appreciate that. If you're willing to do that. Also want to thank Brandon Mission Pack. I'm in their studio today. If I say something that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. They just like to uplift conservative voices. So here I am. So let's get to talking. So Trump went to Kanye West went to Mar-a-Lago, and again, he has like deleted. I was going to show you some of his videos and stuff, but he has deleted them. His talking about his account of it, but the story first broke. A couple different people had reported on it, but Timcast actually got a pretty good scoop on the events that happened and people on the record. So I'm just going to quickly go through their account of it and talk about the sort of backlash that has happened afterwards and since. And people are like, is this a nothing burger? Is it a nothing burger? Maybe you guys are like, it's a nothing burger. It's causing quite a bit of drama, and it's not just like the mainstream media coming for Trump and or whatever. It's like infighting within Republicans discussing how they don't like how this has occurred. So this is from Tim Cass. The dinner between Ye and Trump had been previously arranged, but the additional guests were brought on by author and political commentator Milo Yiannopoulos, who has been named by the fashion and entertainment mogul as his campaign director. On Thursday evening, Ye shook up Thanksgiving when he tweeted a video featuring a discussion between himself and Yiannopoulos about the meeting, which, again, he deleted it. I'm sure we can find it somewhere, but I couldn't find it immediately on Twitter. Ye said that he thinks Trump was most perturbed by him asking the former president to be his VP, but the former president was really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know why they would say that. It just seems like some people are like, it's a psyop. It's a so I don't, unless Kanye is so like involved in like the Twitter and social media landscape, which he posts stuff, but I don't know how he would know who Nick is. But I'm sure that Milo knows who Nick is, and apparently Milo brought him. Nick Fuentes, sometimes the media is like, oh, they're white nationalists, oh, they're white supremacists, oh, they're racist. Nick is actually a white nationalist. He actually is one. So it's not. So some people get called that all the time. Someone told my dad that he's more dangerous than any white supremacist. So you got people on the left who like to throw that term around. This person actually is one. And there's, I mean, like Holocaust denier, made light of like segregation, all the other kind of stuff. Just not a good dinner guest. And Milo, I find this also interesting that Milo agreed to be Kanye's political director, and I don't know how that arrangement eventually came to be in the first place. But Milo got back in the scene some time ago. He made some very controversial comments and basically got ousted. Not by the left, didn't do it. It was like within like some GOP folks like ousted him, and he said some egregious things. But I didn't quite like the way it went down. But he was out for a while, and then he came and said that he like refound religion and was denouncing his gayness or something along those lines, and wasn't going to sleep with his black husband, and started to make waves again. And so not too long ago he started interning for Marjorie Taylor Greene, and so getting his feet wet back into the sphere. So he was on Timcast maybe about a week or two ago, and he was talking about why he thought Trump would beat DeSantis in a primary. And I didn't find, at least the snippets that I watched, because I didn't watch an entire um broadcast, but I did watch, I think, the whole segment that they posted with Milo, talking about this particular topic. And I didn't find his argument very compelling, but he was mostly referring to Trump's energy. And Trump is very charismatic. He just is, like, unnaturally so. And people who know DeSantis have say that's kind of like a problem, for him. He's just not as charismatic as Trump is. Like, not even he's not even like up there with like most maybe naturally politicians who go out there and do it. So it's something that he really needs to work on. He has good governance and all that stuff, in his corner. But Trump just has this sort of natural energy. But I still didn't find like his argument very um like I said, compelling. So I thought it was interesting that the next time you hear Milo, he's decided to team up with someone who is going to rival Trump for the presidency. So, because Kanye did announce that he plans to run, he's got Yay 24 gear, and he did a very kind of unorthodox sort of campaign announcement video. And he's just kind of walking through somewhere, and you see his merch, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm running. So another thing that I think is pretty interesting is that Milo is a provocateur, and he's went around, especially 2016. He was huge. I don't know if so much 15, but 2016 he was huge, going around giving talks, etc. Blah blah blah. But Lauren Southern, who was with the Rebel Media many moons ago, she did like a pretty interesting tell-all that was quite long. And it talked about her time, how she kind of blew up working for Rebel Media, um and then as she kind of moved on. But she also talked about meeting Milo and drama that was there and with other people, because she was basically talking about how mistakes that she had made, times when she was a little bit naive, um people who had backstabbed her, misunderstandings. But she had quite a bit to say about her experiences with Milo and the people that they 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 knew together. And it doesn't sound like Milo is behind a lot of his own work. But there was a machine that was driving his speeches and his books and other stuff like that. So it's if you ever want to watch Lauren Southern's video, I didn't even end up getting through it because I got tired when I was watching it. But it's long. It's long. It's like Zack Snyder Justice League long. So um it's very interesting, in the least, at the least. So if you have some time to kill, I would definitely watch it, because it's really interesting. Um, because she was talking about all these people who get involved in politics, and you trust them because they're saying things that you like. You guys are sharing the same ideals. But even though someone might share your same ideals, that doesn't mean that they're always doing everything for the right reasons, or they're not just saying those things to propel themselves rather than actually caring about the cause. And I know that. I know there's so many people out there who are just riding a wave and hitching a star to get to where they want for their own gain. And there's not a lot of people out there, or there's not enough people out there who are just doing things because they really believe in the cause. So and then there's people who believe in the cause, but then someone who disagrees with them will be like, well, you're not really a Republican or conservative because you don't back blah blah blah. It's just really ridiculous. Like, even now you see people who are like pro DeSantis, who hasn't announced yet, but people like want him to. And then there's people who are still like pro Trump. And I see so many people now calling folks like DeSantis shills. And I guess we'll get to it with Kanye and how he's coming after some people at the Daily Wire. And I'm reading these different comments that people have, and I'm just like, you guys just think they're throwing all their integrity sort of out of the window with some of these issues. And like, have you not been like following some of the things that they've been saying to kind of get them to a point where this is logical, where maybe they back another horse. So, and I don't even know if all of them feel that way, like just some of them. So I'm like, you can't just like see that there's a logical trail. It's automatically they're shilling, they're a traitor. It, it it's politics is a dirty game. Anyway, let me continue reading this article. Uh, Ye continued, when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done. Oh, I think I missed a line. When he didn't know where the lawyers is, you still have your loyalists, Ye said, seemingly ad-libbing a line that would have fit perfectly into one of his hit songs. Ye continued, when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done, the loyalists were running up on the White House. The rap icon explained that he questioned the former president about not pardoning people who were arrested for protesting on his behalf on January 6th, and suggested that he bring back the people who worked on his 2016 campaign but have since been canceled. Ye said that Trump admitted to change the subject to his pardoning of Alice Johnson, a grandmother who he had been serving life without a possibility of parole for nonviolent drug offenses. The woman's freedom had become a passion project for Kim Kardashian. Trump, according to Ye, said that pardoned her for him, not Kardashian. Things at dinner began to unravel when Trump insulted Kardashian, the mother of Ye's children. When Trump started basically screaming at me at the table, telling me I'm going to lose. I mean, has that ever worked for anyone in history? I'm like, hold on, you're talking to Ye, the candidate said at the end of the video. So, yeah, in the video that Kanye has deleted talking about the dinner event, I guess Trump said several disrespectful things about Kim, um, and the dinner stuff didn't end well, which he probably obviously triggered him at first when he asked him to be his VP. And Kanye is not going to win, but I think it's interesting that he put him on blast about not pardoning the January people who protested for the January 6th. Now there's people in there who were violent and other stuff like that. Some people are just like political prisoners though. So hearing some stories about how some people were treated off of like super like offenses that were seemed kind of minor, or just how the FBI for example came to Ryan Kelly's house with with all these people, tore up his house and stuff in front of his kids. That was a lot, um, and really seemed more like an intimidation tactic. Um, so Trump changing the subject, I can see that happening. Um, and there were some, I guess, populist type of people who, I mean, I guess I can understand why he didn't do it, but there's people who that um turned off him. So if Kanye is trying to peel away, if there's a strategy here, I don't know, he could just be talking out of his butt. But if the strategy is to kind of peel some of those populist people away from Trump, that's interesting. But this whole sort of um, meeting, at least from Kanye's perspective, seems like an opportunity to come here and mark his territory and piss all over the king, basically. Um, so to me, I'm like, the audacity of going to Mar-a-Lago where the former president is and to bring guests unannounced is pretty amazing to me. Um, I'm like, who does that? Who does that? Trump said had some comments. He tweeted at least two different things about it. Um, Here's the first one. The past week, Kanye called me to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Shortly thereafter, he unexpectedly showed up with three of his friends whom I knew nothing about. We had dinner on Tuesday evening with many members present in the back patio. The dinner was quick and uneventful. They left for the airport. So that was what Trump said about it. And then he said something about it again. So I help and by the this was after like there was some buzz about it and like major headlines talking about it, people on the right talking about it, and you're starting to get people who were pro-Trump before and just kind of tired of hearing stories like this. So this is when Trump made a comment. So I help a seriously troubled man who just happens to be black. I read this tweet before, but it's not a tweet, it's from Truth Social, but I it's just funny, the phrasing of that, pointing that out. I'm sorry. Yay, Kanye West, who has, like, why would we all know Kanye West is black? He just wanted that to be a point, like a exclamation point. Um, Kanye West, who has been decimated in his business and virtually everything else, and who has always been good to me by allowing his request for a meeting at Mar-a-Lago alone so that I can give him very much needed advice. He shows up with three people, two of which I didn't know, the other a political person I haven't seen in years. I told him, don't run for office, a total waste of time, can't win. Fake news went crazy. Um, I mean, I don't know. Well, the fake news is the fake news, but this, I mean, event did happen and it was interesting. So I was talking to my sister who used to work for the RNC, and I was telling her about it because I know she was kind of off the ball and didn't know about this, and so she just found the story unfathomable because she's just like working for the RNC when there was some kind of event with Ronna McDaniel, like people were checking and doing all this stuff to make sure the folks there, like, there wasn't going to cause a scene. Like, there was an event that they wanted like a black gospel choir there, and and we had well, not me, but they had my uncle and my aunt get the choir together to sing, and then they were just kind of like, I don't know, because these folks, it seems like they're Democrats, or they are Democrats, and um some of them had voted for Trump and stuff, but they, like, you want a gospel choir, like, you'd have like low options. So eventually, just because they knew us and they're like, well, their family's not going to do anything great, so yeah, it ended up being okay. But like, it, there's just such a process, and it's just unfathomable that people can show up to Mar-a-Lago, where the president of the United States is, where they were just keeping like classified records and stuff, and just show up unannounced with these guests. One of them being Milo, which is also interesting because Milo said on Timcast that if people in the White House, if they were interns for the White House, and they found out they were a fan of Milo, and I think he listed some other people, they like promptly like kicked them out. So there are people who've been around Trump who's tried to shelter him from some more obscure figures, like, or provocative figures like Milo, and then just dealing with events like rallies and going to the White House, etc. Like, there's just so much screening that they do. So I've sung at a Pence rally. It was a Trump rally, but Pence was his main speaker. And then I've sung at a Trump rally. Well, I've sung at two that where Trump was at, and I've been to a lot, and I've been VIP'd a lot, and they do check you and they do backgrounds and stuff. But one time I had, the first time I sang where Trump was there, I asked, could I get a picture? And they're like, well, we have to do like a background check. And they clearly did like a check before I sang, and they let me backstage, but whatever. So I didn't get a picture then. And then the last time I did it, so both these times I sang, he was not the president. So this is before and this is after. And they're like, he doesn't have time, you're not on the list. And and I don't know why I wasn't on that list. I don't know why whoever got on whatever list, but I don't know. It was just I just know how there are all these barriers to even get to the point where you can just take a photo. So it's just, some people are like, oh, Trump's just like an easygoing guy, you can just show up and what, or like, I don't know, saying like there's such ease of access, like that's a good thing. And I'm just like, that's just not from my experience. It being like that. So this story is so weird to me. It's so weird how all this happened, but I do think his staff failed in that regard. And I don't think that is, I guess, technically his sole fault, but I guess they are his staff though. So there's people saying, like Mike Cernovich and other folks like that, like, hey, stuff like this can't keep happening. And it's reminiscent, like it's reminding me back in like 2016 when there was like sort of chaos as he was building as the Trump as a candidate, and if he's going against, I, I don't know, it might be a rematch between him and Biden. And I just don't want stuff like this to happen. And I know people are like, oh, it's a nothing burger, it's not a big deal. I just don't want things like this to happen again. Again, it's a weird, really weird story to me. And there are people saying it's like a psyop that that he got set up. Some people are using this moment to condemn everyone who hasn't condemned the visit. And so there are people trying to super blow it out of proportion. But look, I gotta tell you, it's weird. It's a weird story. And one thing that is funny about the media bringing it up and trying to condemn everyone who doesn't take the time to condemn Trump and Kanye, etc. Is just someone pointed out this. um, said who would have invited avowed white nationalists. So the media at one point was very, very fascinated with Richard Spencer, and CNN actually had him on. And I don't know, the only reason why people know about Richard Spencer is because I think the media elevated him so much, and there's still a ton of people who don't know who Richard Spencer is. But I thought that was a good tweet. That was a good tweet. Um, so yeah, and there's people talking like, oh, why didn't DeSantis comment? And they're like, why didn't he take your bait that you're clearly trying to set up? I don't think everyone should have to go on, you know, offense and stuff when I mean defense when they clearly are trying to set them up to make it a big huge thing to condemn everyone who wasn't there, who had nothing to do with it. I don't think everyone should have to take that bait. Keep attacking them, don't always be on the defensive and stuff like they want you to be. But there's even conspiracy theories that, and Candace Owens debunked this or refuted it anyway, but that Candace Owens set them up or put it together or introduced Kanye to Milo and Nick and wanted them there because she's secretly on Team DeSantis now. And I'm like, is that a thing? Like, I don't follow her content religiously like that, but I'm not aware of her. I don't think she seems to be as passionately for Trump as she used to be, but I don't foresee that. But so she said that's not true, and she's seen a ton of conspiracy theories, and that's not so. So I don't know where all there's psyops, but there's all these conspiracies out there. But last thing I want to say is Kanye decided to come for Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire because Ben Shapiro tweeted like, "You don't want to have dinner with white nationalists? Don't invite them." And so he didn't name Kanye, but he was clearly talking about Kanye. And so Kanye West tweeted, and he deleted this tweet. I was like, well, what's with the Daily Wire, promoting my competition, talking about Ron DeSantis. And he said you guys took $100,000 of his. And so everyone on Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro is just like, dude, they're paying for ads. We take way more money than that from people. And in the GOP, DeSantis, Trump, they rent lists too. And they're like, you want to run for political office and you're not aware of like ads and renting lists so you can reach those people who you want to vote for, who are consuming all this conservative content. So he did delete that. I think maybe it was early this morning. So he deleted that, and he deleted his videos. And so I'm assuming he probably regrets this whole experience. I'm pretty sure he regrets the whole experience. But I think, again, I don't think, I would bet that Kanye probably didn't know who Nick Fuentes was, but can't tell me Milo didn't know. So I'm curious what is Milo's end game here for why he did what, because not all good news. I mean, not all news is good news, or all press is good press. And he thrived on that and made that raise his star. And some of it took him down, and he's back up again or trying to make the climb. Um, but you have Kanye, who's already been in hot water for comments, anti-Semitic comments, and people who have started to drop him. Um, he's not in a good place. And so to me, it just kind of looks like Kanye is being taken advantage of by a provocateur. And Milo was fun. I followed his content in 2016. There's plenty of people who still adore him, but this was not a good move. As someone who is his campaign manager, it's not a good move. And I don't see any wisdom here, other than the controversy was good for Milo, so why not do it? Because it certainly wasn't good for Kanye. It certainly wasn't good for Kanye. And I don't want to absolve Kanye from responsibility. But it does seem like he was. If I had to guess how it went down or what's going on, I'm going to point fingers at Milo. And I would say the best thing he can do now is separate that relationship and take a beat for a while. Just take a beat. Get like take some time. Think some things out. Reorganize your mind. But I don't think that's very Kanye. So we'll probably continue to see him unravel and rise and unravel and rise in the public sphere. So anyway, interesting story. That of course has happened last week, but we weren't here, and there's been development since then. He just went after the Daily Wire last night, but how he attacked them was a nothing burger. But again, it is interesting that Kanye brought that up, the money or whatever, the ads and the buying of lists that Kanye brought up, and they're like, well, aren't you going to answer his charge? Like, are you shilling for DeSantis? And they take a lot of people's money on the right because they have access to an audience. They are trying to build a really big brand with movies and etc. They announced that they're doing like is it an Atlas Shrugged movie or is it a TV show? So they have really big plans. They're taking money, right? And there's people who want access to their audience, so they're paying money. If you're a person on the right and you're Trump or DeSantis, whoever, putting money in the Daily Wire to put their stuff in their ads or whatever is probably a good move, especially as they continue to grow. So, come on, guys, just don't let your tribalism stop you from just thinking about it just a little further. Anyway, I want to show you guys this ad from this clothing brand in Canada about euthanasia. So we've talked about how in Canada they have medical assistance in dying, and it was like 3% of deaths in Canada was from medical assistance in dying. And so there was it Politico? I think it was a Political article that we went through one day that detailed like doctors even introducing the idea to patients, or patients thinking about doing it because they didn't know how they were going to pay for their health care, which may shock people because they're like, but the healthcare is free in Canada. Why would there be people who can't pay for healthcare who are thinking about killing themselves? So anyway, they're going to expand who can get access to it. And so beyond like you have like some kind of physical, ailment, like they're going to go toward mental issues as well. So I guess they've legalized it. It's in the medical field, and now they are going to commercialize it. So this video is really disturbing once you understand the context of what's going on. But this is the world that we're
Last breaths are sacred. When I imagine my final days, I see bubbles. I see the ocean. I see music. Even now, as I seek help to end my life, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
So yeah, that's Simon. So yeah, it's at the end. Someone that woman it's about has already died, and there is beauty in living your life up into the last moment, but beauty in everyone has a beginning and an end, and we should try to pursue happiness, as much happiness until that natural end. But for people to have the government sign on to this and then to have it commercialized like this, you're only going to drive more people to end their lives. And this is what happens when you have a society that worships death, worships death. And I told my Bible study about I was talking about abortion, and then I moved on to euthanasia, which pro-life, it doesn't have anything to do with guns and war, etc. Pro-life means you're against abortion and euthanasia, which a lot of people don't talk about euthanasia, because I just don't think a lot of people have thought about it. But as this continues to become a bigger issue, it's going to have to be something that people talk about. And I believe that inherently we have to believe that humans deserve a right to life, but also that there's something inherently good about life and living life, and it's wrong when someone robs you of that. And when you start getting the government involved to this degree, it's like you signed on to it, and now you're already getting commercials celebrating people do. For what purpose is a major like retailer or a Canadian retailer doing this? For what reason? For what purpose? Why? 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 Why is that the thing that they want to sign their name onto? That they want to push? Uh, so I guess I'll have more to say at a later time, but I just wanted to share that's where I don't know where everyone else is watching, but my northern neighbor, who's not that far, I'm in Michigan, it's I couldn't, drive not too long and be in Canada. That this is what they're pushing. Again, 3% of their deaths is euthanasia, medical assistance in dying. I've seen people post threads of young kids who are looking forward, and all they have is like depression or something like that, looking forward to having medical assistance in dying. Georgia Alexopoulos is he does comic books, and I really love his stuff. I actually had a custom picture done for my sister's birthday. Um, and he does political comics, and I share them sometimes. You guys have probably maybe seen them around, but he did one that I'm like, I don't even know if I can share this. and and they're like a darker tone of the politics. And so there was a woman at a doctor's office, and she said, "I'm depressed." And he's like, "Have you considered, unaliving yourself?" And he didn't say unaliving yourself, but I don't want to get censored here. And so my sister sent it to me, and I'm like, on social media, like TikTok and other apps, if you post something that tells someone to go kill themselves, or I think if you even really like do something to support it, that is some kind of violation, and you could get your stuff taken down. So, how is it that we already have a nation, and they're not alone in it, but there's other countries who have more restrictions on euthanasia than Canada does? how is it that they've gone so far to have a retailer do an ad campaign talking about the beauty in ending your own life with the help of medical professionals? And again, and it's not just people who have conditions that whether they are going to die and they're just like suffering like you remember Lost or something when Libby was shot and then they actually they didn't kill her. She was, how did she die? Now that I think about it, she got shot by Michael and they gave her like heroin to ease the pain because she was just like suffering in the bed. Um, but I think she might have just died on her own. But I'm if you're like really suffering in pain or something, and then they go ahead and do it's there was an article recently about a man who got medical assistance to dying or was going to die. He scheduled himself and he had a condition that was manageable, I suppose, but his house was too expensive. He was afraid of being homeless. And he said if he ended up homeless, he didn't know how he was going to survive. So he doesn't want to die. His doctor like knew the real reason why he was going to get the medical assistance and dying, but he just decided to go ahead and sign up for it. And he said he doesn't want to die. That's just he doesn't see another out, I guess. So how can you have these doctors who know that sort of situation and still sign on to it? Barry Weiss, I don't know if it's Weiss or Weiss, but she used to write for the New York Times as she left and has her own Substack. She did a story about a mom who discovered that her son, who is depressed, but he's going blind, but that's the condition, that he had scheduled himself to have medical assistance in dying. And so and it was about her journey to try to save her son before this end date. And she ended up causing such an uproar that I think they just kind of they wouldn't do it to him because she had spoken out so much and became like too controversial. But you have to understand that those are the sort of things that they're signing on to ending people's lives. It's not just like someone is going to die and they're in a lot of unmanageable pain or something. It's just a mercy killing at that point, which people can talk about the ethics of that. But you have people who are going to be depressed and this is going to be their way out. And now we have commercials for it. Really, really sick stuff. Really, really sick stuff. In brighter news, which we hope will eventually be brighter news, you have people in Canada, I'm sorry, not Canada, China, who are uprising really because China had such strict lockdown policies, which by the way, some folks on the left applauded China and how they were doing like zero tolerance sort of restrictions, which by the way, Biden had a statement and it was just weak sauce. It was weak sauce about the protests, but it was basically like we respect everyone's right to protest, and they're like, well, a zero tolerance policy is unwise. They didn't condemn it. They're just like so it's unwise. So we decided to not go for a zero tolerance policy, like China, but that was essentially like it. It was very, very weak, very limp wristed. But there was an apartment complex, which a lot of people live in apartment complexes, but they had willed them shut. And one of them caught on fire and burned a lot of people alive. So there are people uprising. Will there be enough people uprising because China does have a big military and in the past, they were willing to turn them on the folks. So it's got to be enough people willing to rise up. But it is cool that there's some people who are upholding like white pieces of paper because if they write something on there, they will probably get in a lot of trouble. So they're just holding up white sheets of paper. Like, you can imagine if I could say this thing, what it would say. So it's a really, really cool way to protest censorship. At least I think it's neat, and other people are talking about it. But here's one video. There's, if you follow Jack Posebek's been posting a lot of different clips and talking about it. So if you want to go on Twitter and follow at least a stream where they're continuously posting stuff, he's one person. But here's a group of protesters when they're accused of being influenced by outside forces, and them speaking up against it and pushing back against that narrative.
那你们继续。您好，请问新疆的火是境外势力放的吗？不是，请问贵州的大巴是境外势力推翻的吗？我真的完完全全认同你们说的。大家伙是境外势力叫来的吗？不是，我们连网都上不到国外的，我们哪儿来的境外势力？境外势力怎么跟我们沟通？你们只有境内势力不让我们聚集。外边有王子。我们现在是能出国，还是能上国外的网？都不能。他们怎么联系我们？联系不上。哪来的境外势力？月球吗？我们只想要自由。去他妈的境外势力！自由。
Yeah, so they're like, how can we be influenced by outside forces? Like, we can't go anywhere. We can't talk to foreign people on the internet. So who are we influenced from? Foreigners from the moon? So they said they want freedom. So God bless them. And I hope they can see real change. So we'll continue to watch that. Speaking of change, which if I had to put my money in it, Mike Lindell's not going to take out Ronna McDaniel for RNC chair, but he's trying, though. He's apparently running. He has announced Mike Lindell is the My Pillow guy. So here's his video.
I am 100% running for the RNC chairman against Ronna McDaniel. 100%. I'm all in, Steve. And one of the things that one of the big donors said to me, he said, Mike, everybody wants you to be head of the RNC. Some of them just don't know it yet.
One of the big donors, which there are many, said they want you to, they just don't know it. That's not a good thing to egg him on like that. So oh boy. So we talked at least 2 weeks ago, because we didn't do a show last week, that Ronna apparently has enough votes, or it was reported that she had enough votes to lock up her reelection. Zeldin, who ran for governor in New York, apparently he wrote a post, and it seemed like he was going to challenge her. And that is a lot more legitimate challenge than Mike. Now, I don't know what the entire RNC pool of voting delegates is like, but I don't think that they are probably as collectively grassrootsy as they are across speckled different states. If it was Michigan, and it was Ronna versus, well, Ronna's from Michigan, so I don't know about that, but how a lot of it would be more plausible or something. But again, I don't know how the whole pool is, but I would think that that's not going anywhere. Now, Trump is apparently backed Mike Lindell, and he makes a good pillow. But him running against Ronna, if people want to give Ronna a good challenge, then people should back Lee Zeldin and not split that vote up or try to split that vote up when she has allegedly already has enough votes to lock that in. The Kristi Noem was asked about GOP leadership, and she said it doesn't make sense with these losses that you would put in the same person again, or not have some kind of leadership changes. And so in 20 she became the chair after the 2016 victory, with Trump getting elected. She was, I think, probably the only chair who pledged her delegate to Trump, but he had won Michigan. So she did that for reasons. So she did that, and we won Michigan. We flipped it, and Trump won the state of Michigan. Michigan has some big financial donors and stuff. We had a really good team. A lot of people come all over the country to work in the Michigan Republican Party because they see it as a good avenue to get to DC. It's got state parties across the country, obviously, but Michigan has had a historically pretty good state party, and this was like the time when I was working there. I was in the cycle when Trump won. So she was announced for the RNC chair once Trump backed her and stuff. There wasn't really much opposition, I don't think. So she was in 2018. We did, lose control. But it wasn't a shellacking that it could have been. It probably wouldn't have been as bad if you didn't have as many retirements. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But there was also some really good races. Like that's the year Ron DeSantis won, and he won by the skin of his teeth, believe it or not. And then that was the year that Kemp won against Stacey Abrams, and all these celebrities and Oprah and Katy Perry and all these folks really pushing for Abrams and to win and stuff, and didn't work. And that was a closer race than it certainly was last time or this recent time. So we had some good electoral victories, even though, like Congress and stuff, particularly in California, there was a pretty big wipeout of GOP. But California has since then sort of figured it out, and they won some seats back in this past election. So people need to readjust. Like California readjusted, New York had whatever good system. They didn't end up winning the governor race, but because Lee Zeldin ran such a good race, that did help other seats in New York. And because New York had a good showing, that's why we have the control in the House. So everybody's race is important. Everybody's got to run a good race. The job of the RNC isn't to select Republicans to run, but it is their job to help Republicans win, obviously. So we did have some good victories in places. Obviously, you had a blowout in Florida, and Kemp won his reelection, and DeSantis, just killed it. So there were some good races all over the place, but there were some places where you just got shellacked. Michigan was just lost, and that probably particularly hurts Ronna because that's where she lives. That's her state, So I can see people calling for heads to roll, and we definitely didn't have the victories that we should have had. But I think a lot of that is people looking to the wrong things. Like the Democrats have shifted the game so much, especially with the ballot harvesting and all the other kind of stuff. And Republicans used to have a very good absentee program, but Trump, talking about the mail and all the other stuff in 2020, it did hinder it. Just being honest with you guys right now. So they need to rebuild this and encourage people to vote early and all the other kind of stuff. But they also need to compete as far as entertainment and culture and news, because if Democrats are just going to turn out numbers and capture a voter that maybe normally wouldn't have taken the time to even bother going to the poll, they can just fill out a ballot, or have someone else fill out their ballot and then pick it up, they're the media that they have consumed to make them just vote this particular way. If they have that raw big number like that, the Democrats are just going to win. So Republicans have to find a way to expand their base. And that's something that me and my sister and folks have been talking about for as long as we've been into politics. So whoever you're going to support, whether it's very local or the RNC level, don't support anyone for leadership who is not focused on how they're going to expand the base. Period. I don't care what state you are in. So you need to support someone who's going to have a game plan on how they're going to expand the base. Because at the end of the day, many of us, I'm very conservative. I know there's people way more moderate than me out there who want to push somebody who's just going to win. And there's some states where I guess you got to put up a more moderate candidate. I don't want that to have to be the strategy, though. I'm a conservative because I believe in the conservative principles. I think they're better for the country. So I want my candidates to reflect that so they can push the country in a more positive direction. But they still have to win at the end of the day. So if you want those kind of people to win, you have to make your case from now until election day and actually change how people think about a lot of these different issues. So if you're not going to, if leadership isn't talking about how they have a real strategy to expand the base, then yes, you need different leadership. But demand plans of action that make sense. Demand plans of action that make sense. And just saying, hey, people who are just talking about we need to roll back everything. I agree. We need to. I believe 100% in voting day. I don't like voting early. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to go into a big rant today. But if you're not in charge, you can't change those rules anyway. So the Democrats have changed the game. I use this Monopoly analogy. It's like they have is a Park Place and Boardwalk, those two blue sections. It's like they have control of both of those, and you have to figure out how to run the board with them taking the biggest chunks that mean the biggest doom for you if you land on those spaces. So Republicans have to be more strategic and a bit less conspiratory. If you don't believe that there's a possibility that we can lose and all of it is just voting machines changing numbers, you're not paying attention. Like Democrats I like to say that they've legitimately rigged elections. You have to figure out you have to adjust on how they've changed the game. You have to adjust on how they've changed the game. And you still have to make your case to people and change hearts and minds. You do. So that's the game plan. That's the strategy. Vote for whoever is going to bring that out. And Mike Lindell, I appreciate his testimony. And I don't have on my pillow. That's something I guess I got to get. But I don't see him being that guy. I think Lee Zeldin could be that guy. So it's just a question of whether, and I know Ronna has talked about that, but she doesn't, they're the head, but every party works differently. So in every state. So people got to decide what's going to be best for that ground game. And Lee Zeldin is talking like he wants to fight for that ground game for every seat. Like he fought for his seat, knowing that I'm sure he believed deep in himself that there was a chance that maybe he could win, especially as people were talking about it was more competitive than what people thought. But he's still very glad that even though he lost, that he ran that race as well as he did, as hard as he did. And if he's going to bring that same kind of energy into other people's races, I think that's a good thing. So look at his plan and look at the numbers, the victories that Ronna has had or the RNC has had. We've suffered some big losses, but not everything's been a loss. And then make your decision. But Mike Lindell, you can ask him what his game plan is, but there's gotta be a real ground game strategy for whoever leads, period. And whether that's RNC or whether that's Michigan race or whatever race for leadership across the country. Ground game. Last thing I wanted to mention before I go, which I'm over, is gosh, maybe I'll talk more about this tomorrow. But the UN posted this: words can be weapons. Hate speech online can lead to cruelty and violence in real life, and words can be weapons. And a lot of people quite a few people that I follow wrote under this, and they're like, stay away from my free speech, or because this is clearly, people talk about hate speech, and hate speech just shouldn't be like, who determines what hate speech is? Who determines that? And it's like Michael Scott, like, it's not a hate crime. It's like, well, I hated it. Like, yeah, you hated it, but that doesn't give you the right to restrict someone else because your feelings got hurt. Like, people need the freedom to be able to express themselves, to talk, to have conversations. Like, if people want to go by what they deem as a hate crime, there's a lot of people, like libs of TikTok, people I don't want them to exist. Babylon B, like, didn't have an active Twitter account for a long time because they tweeted out that Rachel Levine had won Man of the Year, who's our assistant health secretary, who's a biological man, but he's transgender. And so he got, the account got not banned, permanent ban or something, but they said you have to delete this tweet, this post that you have. And they said no, because it's true. So we're not. So they stood their ground, and then Elon Musk saw it, and maybe he was like, I don't know, thinking about buying Twitter anyway, and he was upset about a couple different things. But when he saw that, he contacted Seth Dillon, who was over the Babylon Bee, and plans got to make shifting and whatever. And lo and behold, now he owns Twitter. So whoever decided to make that decision, what a terrible decision that just escalated so far into where we are today. But it was, and some people were like, you could have just deleted it. And he's like, no, it's a true thing. We're not going to do that. We're not going to budge. We're not going to move. But it was also strange that they wanted them to delete it. Like, they could have just deleted it themselves and then put them back on. But they want you to do it. They want you to acknowledge that you made the mistake and take the time to delete it yourself. So the good guys won on that end, but it took a while. It took a while. So who gets to say what hate speech is? Or a lot of these social media platforms and stuff censoring folks, like, they'd censor people for, then this doesn't have to do anything with hate speech, but like the misinformation with COVID on stuff that turned out to be true. But they would censor you for talking about stuff. I got censored for stuff with COVID that I didn't even say, or stuff that didn't go against CDC guidelines. And when I would appeal it to YouTube or something, I'm like, can you please tell me where what I said that even goes against the CDC? And they're like, it's down. It's misinformation. They just left it as, nope, you can't post this. And then I was like, couldn't post for like 2 weeks or whatever. So I do agree with this post, though, that they have. I mean, as a kid that grew up in the 90s or whatever, like, sticks and stones can break my bones and words can never hurt me. But I do know that words can be a weapon. Not can be, words are a weapon. And that's precisely why they want to censor so many people. That's why they're mad at libs of TikTok and Matt Walsh and Chris Rufo, and they blame them for like terrorism, acts of terror, for their language, for their speech, because they want to censor them. There's a reason why Hillary Burton is saying that Candace Cameron beret is the worst kind of bigotry, or rhetoric. And all she did was, Candace Cameron Bure is DJ from Full House, and she used to do these Hallmark movies, and she left Hallmark because they started to do some LGBT stuff, and so she went and started her own Great American Family, and they asked her, like, well, are you going to have LGBT couples? And she said, we're going to focus on traditional marriage or families or whatever. And people were upset about that. And Hillary Burton came at her and continuously came at her. And after the Colorado shooting, she said people like her, that they're the worst. Their rhetoric is the worst. And I'm like, really? Because there's some people out here who say some very directly terrible things, violent things. But yet you think someone who just wants to make Christmas movies is worse rhetoric because she said what, traditional families or marriage or whatever? That hurt you so bad? That causes so much danger, so much damage? Of course, she was in no way responsible for that, which, by the way, it's pretty fascinating how they when the shooter identified as non-binary, how the left had to navigate that, because the lawyer said that they're they/them, and has like the X in the abbreviation or whatever. I'll have to show some clips tomorrow of their reactions to it, but I'm sure you've heard and seen a bit about it. But they were blaming Lauren Bobart and Candace Cameron and Libs of TikTok for this shooting, even though they didn't call it any violence. And the most that Libs of TikTok does is literally just post stuff that liberals say themselves, their own videos in their own words, and just elevates it. And then Tucker or someone will elevate it, but they just put it on blast after people voluntarily post it online. The reason why they equate those people and their words and what they do to violence, even though they don't call for violence, they don't call for any actions, they equate that to violence because they want someone who can invoke violence with authority to shut them up. And what I mean violence with authority, I mean the threat of a gun from the government. That's what I mean. They want that censorship. And they will spark it. They'll talk, and they'll have these journalists, and these activists, and these celebrities who will say stuff, and it will continue to get amplified. You have these social media companies that will shut stuff down, or the government will tell them to, or strongly insist, if not request / tell them to shut down different people's accounts. The left is really mad that Elon took over Twitter because Twitter was their thing. Twitter was their thing, and now it's not. And Elon Musk I wouldn't say he's a conservative by any means. And I wouldn't put total faith and trust in him or whatever. But he at least understands the value of free speech. And he saw a danger to how slanted it is. And he's talked about people who have been banned, perma-banned or temporary banned or got violations, etc. And he says it's so bad. It was so bad how slanted it was. And he also found like merchandise and it was hashtag stay woke. It was so slanted. And he says he'll make things public about how they talk about censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. See, he's still going through a lot of stuff. And I'll be very interested to see some of their thought process behind the scenes. But if you're on the applications, you know that there's a slant on the left with Facebook and TikTok and YouTube and Twitter. Not so much Twitter anymore, but how it was. You know that. And the reason why they want to censor you, it goes back to, it's bigger than Republican Democrat sort of thing, but I talked about there needs to be some kind of change because they have access to all these people. They want access to these people without you being able to influence anyone else, without you having to have debate. They call you bigots and racist and homophobe and all those things to try to shut you down as quick as possible. So they can't have debate. So they'll do it that way, but they do want to literally shut you down. They want to shut you down and censor you online, and they will go and try to make the move with trying to censor you with the threat of violence from the gun of the government. There's no reason to accuse people of being responsible for mass shootings unless that's the route you want to go. that's the route I'm sure they want to go. And it's not even just with like the mutilation of kids with the gender surgeries and all the other kind of stuff. I'm concerned even like with the pro-life movement and Elizabeth Warren talking about going after pregnancy crisis centers, and they're like, they're getting these false informations. And you had um the AG of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, doing like advisory warnings to folks about how they give false information. And you had my governor who vetoed money that was supposed to go to these places. And you see people, I was in a thread, and some people were talking about how activists, pro-choice activists, don't want informed consent. They're like, no, we want true informed consent, not the things that the pro-life people lie about or these pregnancy crisis centers are lying about. I'm just like, what do people think that they're lying about? But you know what? They believe things. There's the Guardian put out this article about like aborted, like what an abortion actually looks like, and it just has like tissue. And people who've had babies and have had miscarriages or abortions are like, no, you can visibly see a baby like at that point in time, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or whatever. Like you can see them. They're very tiny, but you can see them. And I saw somebody say that it's not true that there's a heartbeat at 6 weeks. And not from the jargon of the electrical impulses, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Or Stacey Abrams saying that like a machine is like a conspiracy theory about them making it up. Or that's just something they want you to hear. And like some kind of, I don't know, men in the back room like, haha, make the sound, make the noise every time she goes to a doctor's office. But she said there's no heartbeat because the heart hasn't started to form. I'm like, we do not have true informed consent. These people are moronic. I mean, there's pro-life people who know far more about the embryology than I do, but that's just I'm like, you don't think at 6 weeks the heart has started to form at all? That's crazy. That's crazy. So when you go like a pregnancy crisis center, or you have like some that are mobile, like Save the Storks or something, and they want you to hear the baby's heartbeat, that's propaganda. But even on TikTok now, if you post a video that's about abortion, it will send you to there's like some kind of warning at the bottom, like find out information here about it, like they did with all the COVID stuff. There's all the censorship. And I said, these people don't want you to have true informed consent. They're like, that's not true. I'm like, majority of House Democrats in 2019 and 2021 in Michigan actually voted that children shouldn't need parental consent. And with Prop 3, like people are saying that's going to happen now. And they're like, that's not true. I'm like, all these people who support it literally tried to do it already. Okay. And they think that these children not having the privacy is a bad thing. They don't want children, they don't want parents to know or have a say whether the child gets an abortion. They think you should just be able to walk into a Planned Parenthood and get that stuff done without any sort of notice. That's what they want. So I'm curious how they'll try to start censoring that information as well. They know that words are a weapon. I totally agree with this. I totally agree with the UN, but not for the reasons that they probably wanted to point out. Your words are powerful. That's information is powerful. Conversations are powerful, and that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, and why I encourage you guys to. Glad you guys enjoy tuning in and listening and commenting, and when I post a meme, you like a meme or whatever. But I want us to not be afraid. I think 60-something% of Americans are afraid to voice their real opinions. I don't want you to be in that 60-something%. I want you to boldly talk about what you believe and why, and convince someone to vote more rationally for the good of the country. That's what I want. That's what I want. Because they know people like you and I are dangerous. That's why they're freaked out about Elon owning Twitter, leveling the playing field. And they'll try to stop people in other ways. Especially like the hysteria that happened with a mass shooting, blaming people with nothing to do with it. And how you're not going to be able to solve shootings like that by blaming other people, especially if there's people who do stuff like that for the sake of confusion. And then they're like they're digging so deep to get the narrative that they want, and they're like, here's his manifesto. I'm like, you morons. One of the reasons why people do stuff like this is for the infamy. So yeah, let's just spend all these days talking about his manifesto and plastering his picture everywhere, so you can hate on the person that you hate every other day anyway. So maybe we'll dig some more into this tomorrow, but I just wanted to share that words can be a weapon. They want to silence you. They want to silence you. Someone pointed out, like, the UN is supposed to use words to stop wars. Like, isn't that what they're supposed to do? Supposedly. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Please make sure that you check out blacktnews.com. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Costs to stream, costs to run my website, costs to do all sorts of things. But if you would like to support, God bless you if you can. Whether it's $10 or $20, you know, if you want to go beyond 100 or whatever, God bless you. I really do appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, following, all that jazz. Does really help to boost Black Tea. Check out different merch that we have at the website, like the Pro-Choice Men Are Sus. We have and that stands for suspect. The Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document with Frederick Douglass. We got mugs. We got the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. And we do have the goat hoodies, which are very comfortable. And we do have them in different colors, and also like the t-shirt. I have both. So go ahead and pick those up at the website. Check what else we have, like the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt with a list of his race on the back. And we'll have some more stuff in as well soon. So please make sure you're checking it out. And again, on Wednesday, I will be at Oakland University at a book fair sort of thing. And there's other people selling like art and other kind of stuff like that. But I will have a table, and my sister will also be right next to me selling some of her artwork. So you guys, if you're in the area in like Auburn Hills, Michigan, I don't know if it's like that area is considered Rochester Hills though, right? But it's like Auburn Hills-ish area. Come and get some stuff. We got all kinds of books, got chapter books, historical fiction, fantasy books, and all kinds of stuff. And I'll let you guys know when you can pre-order. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.